Good morning, my fellow Murray Hills Church members. This is Norm Jenks, and I'm here today to kind of relay a chapter in my life that was really tough. Calvin was a fine young man growing up. In both sides of his family, we had law enforcement. My wife's father had a very long career at the Tennessee Highway Patrol, 30 years. Ended up retiring as a lieutenant. I had two uncles on my side of the family. One was a city policeman, and one was a university policeman on a major university where I grew up. And Calvin and my stepson Daniel always wanted to pursue a career in law enforcement. Calvin went into law enforcement, I want to say about 2005. And he was out on patrol on January 6th. Just got through booking a DUI individual that he had pulled over. And I guess he had about 45 minutes left in his shift. You know, Calvin could have, easily just probably went home and continued taking care of the paperwork for that DUI that he just incarcerated. But he went back out on the patrol to finish his shift, and he pulled over a couple individuals that were speeding. It was just a routine traffic stop. I think Calvin had about 2.5 years in at the Highway Patrol. He pulled over these individuals in Tipton County, and there wasn't a big lane, I guess, on the passenger side of the road. So when Calvin pulled over these individuals for a routine traffic stop, little did he know that we had two drug runners that were coming up out of Texas. One was 17 and one was 19, and they were up here in Tennessee to set up a drug network for the 17-year-old's brother. But unfortunately, Calvin pulled him over, and he got the 19-year-old out of the car and asked questions, "Are there any drugs in the car?" He said, "No, sir." And he said, "Are there any guns in the car?" And he again said no. And Calvin handcuffed him and detained him behind the patrol car. And when Calvin could not walk around to the passenger side of the car, when he bent down to look in the vehicle to the 17-year-old, unfortunately, the 17-year-old raised a pistol and shot my son twice. And unfortunately, tragically, took his life. And in the meantime, the 17-year-old got out, they uncuffed the 19-year-old, and they took off. And if you want to talk about moments in my life as a Christian and or a struggling Christian, I mean, it really hurt me that a routine traffic stop and, a 17-year-old young man would take my son's life. What happened is those individuals, they went back into Tipton County and got rid of the car, went to a Walmart, changed their clothes. And these individuals then got someone in Tipton County to give them a ride to Nashville. And so this individual, there were two of them, they took these, the shooter and his accomplice to Nashville, to a motel. And on their way back, the Highway Patrol had known then that someone had murdered a Tennessee Highway Patrolman, and a THP officer in Dixon had somebody pulled over on the side of the road. Well, these two individuals failed to observe the move over law and came close to this officer. So this officer told the people he had pulled over, he said, "Well, it's your lucky day." He handed their driver's license and registration back to him, and then pursued the two individuals that did not move over for him. And when he pulled them over, and he started asking questions, and then he found that there was a sizable amount of marijuana in the back seat of their car. And when he questioned those two individuals, they came clean and told him the story. They had just gave two Hispanic individuals a ride to Nashville. And between the Dixon Sheriff's Department and the Tennessee Highway Patrol and the TBI, they were able to put together the pieces of the puzzle. And those two individuals rode back to Nashville and showed them where they were staying in a motel. And it was divine intervention that I was telling a good friend of mine that our Heavenly Father allowed those folks to not move over. They were, in essence, pulled over. They were able to find out where the shooter and his accomplice were at in Nashville. And that is how Calvin lost his life. It was just a routine traffic stop. The guy was doing 62 on a 45 on a back roads in Tipton County, and Calvin pulled him over. I mean, he was an unselfish individual. Had 45 minutes left in his shift. He could have probably ended it that day early, but he chose to go out and fulfill his full shift, and that's just kind of trooper he was. But unfortunately, a tragedy struck himself and our family. And this is what she put together to kind of to remind us of the tragic situation. There was Calvin's beautiful wife, Sarah. She was in med school at the time. And this is Alejandro Guana, the young man who shot my son. And this is Mr. Garcia. He was the driver that came up from Texas. This is Trooper Calvin Wayne Jenks Memorial Highway. This is out on Highway 50. As you're going towards Lawrenceburg, they named that stretch of highway after Calvin in his memory. And so a young kid dropped that off at the lemon tree. That colored that and dropped it off. There's a picture of Calvin. He was quite the outdoorsman too. He could caught a catfish barehanded down at Tim's Ford Lake. Everybody kept telling him he couldn't do it. This was the license plate that was on the front of Calvin's trooper patrol vehicle, Tennessee 4462. This right here was an award given to us from the National Criminal Enforcement Association. Sent this to us in memory of Calvin's life. All the time we were dealing with that chapter in our life. At first, you know, in the grieving stage, and I almost wanted revenge for the individuals that were involved with that tragic event. And you know, I had newscasters and stuff reaching out to me and asking me if I thought the death penalty was appropriate. And at that time, I think I made a statement of, you know, I guess, you know, an eye for an eye or something to that matter. And then later on, as we go through the trial, my daughter kept asking me, you know, why did God let something like this happen? And I had to explain to her at the time, Bridget, that our Heavenly Father doesn't let stuff like this happen. We don't have the answers right now, but one day we'll find those answers. I'm sure our Heavenly Father will bring that to us. And during all the grieving with Calvin's brothers and sisters and, you know, my wife, which was Calvin's stepmother at the time, we came from a divorced family. But Calvin's mother was grieving, all the kids were grieving, and I kept telling my daughter that one day our Heavenly Father will give us an answer to this tragic event. And I think it was probably the 7th or 8th time we went to Tipton County for hearings, and the shooter, whose name was Alejandro Guana, and he was on the stand that day testifying, and he said that that given day or evening when he shot my son, he said, I had the devil in my heart. And I reached across my wife and I grabbed my daughter's hand and I squeezed it and I said, Bridget, did you catch that? And she goes, what? I said, that's the answer that we've been searching for. He took Calvin's life that day and he had the devil in his heart. He just relayed that in front of the whole courtroom, in front of our family, and I think that is the answer that we've been searching for. But I just want to let the membership know that while I was going through this, I fought and struggled for about 2 years with the essence of forgiveness. And it was a burden that I was carrying on my shoulders for almost 2 years. And it was on an Easter Sunday, I think in 2009, that I looked at my wife and I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't struggle with this grief. I can't struggle with this guilt. But I went down in front of the congregation and I asked our pastor at the time to pray for me, and I wanted to ask for forgiveness for carrying so much hurt and meanness in my heart towards the individual that took my son's life and the individual that didn't warn him that it was going to happen. You know, like I said, I almost wanted revenge until I went down and professed my forgiveness to our Heavenly Father and to the individuals that took my son's life. And I can't tell you how much better that made me feel. It took a lot of guilt and a lot of hurt off my heart. And I know that all of us in our lives, in our daily lives, each and every day, or in our past, I think we all have had chapters in our life where someone has hurt us or hurt our family. And we still carry that today. And all I'm saying today is I hope and pray that when you come to a time in your life where you can ask for forgiveness and put that hurt behind you, it'll make your daily presence, it'll just open up your heart to love. It'll open up your heart to forgiveness, and it'll help you lead your daily Christian life in a whole lot meaningful way. Thank you.